Dr. Christopher Barker, and welcome to Holding Space. Welcome back to Holding Space if you're returning. Hopefully you are. I wanted to take a moment during holiday season. It's particularly busy in my line of work. I'm a psychologist in New Jersey, and stress, decreased daylight, messing with circadian rhythms and everything else makes it very, very difficult for a lot of people to face some of their feelings. So I wanted to talk a little bit today about Viktor Frankl, um, spelled Frankl, for those of you who may want to look him up, and his creation of logotherapy, which is finding meaning. Frankl was an Austrian psychiatrist and neurologist, and one of the early um, proponents of psychoanalytic theory. He started working with the University of Vienna, and when he studied medicine, he founded a suicide prevention program. He was always interested in the things that made life difficult, and of course, during the war, he was imprisoned in a concentration camp. Actually, he was imprisoned in a few. He was moved from camp to camp, as people frequently were, and wound up in Auschwitz. His experiences in the concentration camps provided a lot of, I guess, the initial impetus for him to find a theory of why people survived and how they survived. He made observations about how people would cling to the smallest things, memories of turning on a light at home, memories of something that they wore, collecting a button, finding anything that made the day survivable. He noticed that some people gave up right away and threw themselves on the electrified fences. Some people managed to get by. They struggled. They survived. And Frankl said, so what gives life meaning? He concluded that there is no inherent meaning to life, that we come to that realization of what gives our lives meaning. And he called it logotherapy, which is from the Greek logos, which means meaning. And he said that we realize, even though we lose things and we lose people, he lost his wife, his parents, his brother. He found strength in envisioning himself lecturing about psychology, his experiences in the camps after liberation. They had no idea that there was going to be liberation. They had no idea that there was going to be any future. But nonetheless, he held on to the hope and the idea. And the meaning for him was what he was able to concoct as the story of life is going to be like after the camp. His core insights is that life's meaning can be found even in suffering, that despite the suffering that we endure, that we are going to be able to find meaning, that will continue to find meaning. We will give our lives meaning. The core principles are freedom of will. Even under dire circumstances, individuals can choose their attitude. The will to meaning, the primary human drive is not pleasure, as Freud defined it, or power, as Adler defined it, but the pursuit of meaning. Meaning and suffering. Pain and hardship can be reduced if they're connected to a greater purpose. And we determine that purpose. We find that purpose for ourselves. The therapeutic goal of Frankl's theory is not to focus on pathology. It's not to focus on what's wrong. It helps people identify their personal meaning, which is, another thing that is shared with acceptance and commitment therapy, is shared with wellness. A lot of the more modern theories that have come out that don't look so much at what's wrong as what can be right. We find meaning through work. We find meaning through relationships. We find meaning through courage in adversity. We find a cause. We find something to keep going for. And this is particularly important for people who are suffering from depression and hopelessness and are feeling that there is no point in going on. You find your point in going on. There's several key components to logotherapy. One of them is paradoxical intention. And this is really interesting because instead of running away from or avoiding or trying to solve the problem that is giving you fear or anxiety, Frankl said we need to look it in the eye. We need to come face to face with the thing that is most troubling to us. And by facing it, we overcome it. So if there's something in which you're experiencing anxiety, rather than trying to remain calm, logotherapist said you should focus on the very nature of your sympathetic discomfort. You should focus on, for instance, blushing. If you have a fear, he recounted one case of a person who had a deadly fear of blushing in front of a crowd if he was doing public speaking. He said, try to make yourself blush. Now, if you've ever tried to do this, realize it's very difficult. You have to come up with a thought of something that might make you blush, and that thought will sometimes cause you to blush, but can you blush voluntarily? No, not really. Just blush. No, that's not really working. So he believed that by trying to create a situation in which we experience anxiety, we're able to overcome it. And this became the basis of, and it's frequently paired with systematic desensitization, other types of therapy for flooding, for phobias. So if we try to create the situation in which we experience anxiety and we're able to work past it, or if we're able to realize that we cannot automatically make it happen, then we are realizing that we have some control over it. So control, meaning, and finding meaning in existence are the key messages for today. Thank you for holding space, and remember to comment, hit like, subscribe, and join us again for another podcast on holding space. Thank you.